Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up, Mixed Combat Radio family? We're back. We're back with another weekly edition of the show. We weren't really live last week due to scheduling issues. And obviously, our third co host, Melody Joy from The Beauty of Boxing, not here today, unfortunately. But obviously, go check out all of her work at The Beauty of Boxing, all social media platforms, and thebeautyofboxing.com. I think we're going to come back, me and her, and do a show sometime this week. Either a Saturday live reaction show, something like that, to add some more content to it. But a lot to get to, of course. Canelo versus Charlo, not Jermell Charlo. This is boxing, I guess. Like, this stuff happens. Plus we had fights this last weekend. Josh Franco, Gary's boy, fought. Didn't work out that well. Gonna dive into that one. A lot to get into. Plus, prospects / contenders, Virgil Ortiz, Boots are fighting this weekend, obviously on respective cards. A lot of stuff to get into. And without further ado, let me get to my trusty co-host, the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you?
It's good. It's good to be back. We didn't get to do a show last week. It was busy, and I'm leaving tomorrow for San Antonio. Things didn't go well for Josh. Whenever you start talking about retirement, you're already done, and I think that's what we had there. I can't wait to get Matt's take on Jermell Charlo. I don't. Without further ado, let's get into the news. Or do you want to start with the fights from last week? I think we should.
No. We should get to the news. Yes. I mean, Canelo versus Jermell Charlo. Undisputed versus undisputed. It was a fight that I think it was a possibility. It wasn't like this is completely out of the blue. There was some reporting about this in early May, I believe, that this was a possibility. But I don't think anyone thought much of it because it was a 2-weight class jump for Jermell Charlo, who is a great fighter, arguably pound for pound top 10, of course.
Oh, he's easily top 10. He should be top 5. He's got all the belts. And he didn't have an easy path to it either.
But this was just a fight that no one really asked for. No one was really looking for. No one really demanded in any way. The Jermell Charlo fight, was a far more intriguing fight. Obviously, he didn't take it due to, quote, personal issues that have stopped him from fighting as of late. And, whatever that might be, please go see a therapist, fighters. There seems to be a running issue right now. We're going to get to it with Josh Franco. But fighters, go to therapy. It's not that hard, guys. You guys got the money at the top. Go see a therapist, please. But digressing, it's one of those fights where it's a good fight on paper still, but it's not a fight that I don't care about in any sizable way. And it's going to be hard for them, I think, to promote it because it's a fight that, again, not a lot of people, I think, really care about. It's not a fight that has natural buildup. If anything, it's a fight to build up Jermell Charlo fighting Canelo Alvarez. Not really a fight that in itself has its own buildup. David Benavidez is, of course, another fight. Dimitri Bivol. And those are fights that have natural storylines with Canelo. Jermell Charlo, even though he's a fantastic fighter, I don't really feel like he should be getting this opportunity. I mean, he's getting it. Shout out to him. Get the money. I totally understand why he's taking it, but I wish they just skipped it to David Benavidez in September instead, for some reason, trying to build that one up to May or whatever it is. Just skip the Charlos for a second because Big Charlo can't take it. Benavidez in September, but that's not happening. Gary, I mean, your thoughts. You were interested to see mine. What are yours?
You did a good job spinning it. You didn't spin it as much as I thought you would. You weren't hyping.
I was spinning it. What, Gary?
This is an embarrassment. He's not. He signed a 3-fight deal with PBC. I was at a weigh-in in Laredo with Roberto Duran. Not to name drop, but I was Roberto Duran, and we might have had lunch later. I don't want to name drop. I don't want to name drop. I don't want to name drop.
Gary over here, man.
I don't want to name drop.
I was hanging out with Roberto Duran this week.
That's all. Friday, I had lunch with Roberto Duran. What did y'all do?
Had lunch with him. Okay, yeah.
And my boy, Brandon, shout out 210 Boxing TV, go check him out. Said Canelo's gonna fight Little Charlo. I said, no, he's not. He's like, yeah, Big Charlo, but I don't want to report this because it sounds fake. I'm like, bro, this is definitely fake. Like, this is a rumor. Like, this is Thurman versus Spence. It's not actually gonna happen. Like, and then an hour later, it was everywhere. I'm like, dude, you should have reported it first, right? He's signed a 3-fight deal with PBC. He's not fighting Morrell. He's not fighting Benavidez. He's not fighting Big Charlo. What was the point of signing with PBC then? Like, this is what you're going to do? You're going to fight a guy 2 weight classes smaller than you? To me, this is embarrassing. And the people who hate Canelo, the Canelo haters are going to have a field day with this, right? And my boy Guy Taylor, the matchmaker for the Pro Box stuff, goes, no one had a problem with Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence. Everyone had a problem with Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence. What are you talking about? This is as bad as that. Like, who didn't have a problem with Errol Spence and Mikey Garcia? Everyone did. Charles never even fought over 154. Mikey at least fought at 140. He won a belt there. This is 2 full weight classes to fight the best guy in the division. Now, look, Little Charlo is the best guy in his division by far. He's got all the belts. But I don't understand, like, how you go from Big Charlo, which is a good fight, which I thought Big Charlo could win. If you listen to our last show, I talked about that, to this guy. There is a huge size difference between Big Charlo and Little Charlo. It's really the only way I can tell them apart, right? This is a ridiculous fight. And he's not going to fight Benavidez or Morrell because he's going to fight this fight. Then he's going to fight Big Charlo, and he's going to lose to Big Charlo, and he's going to rematch with Big Charlo, and that's the 3-fight deal.
Gary, I mean, I wouldn't say it's embarrassing. I feel like it's shocking. Embarrassing. I mean, this is better than a lot of opponents that he's fought, even as of late, Gary. I mean,
I remember your reaction quite vividly when Spence. Is this any different than Errol and Mikey?
yes, I think so.
Is it better or worse?
It's better. It's better. Mikey wasn't undisputed. Mikey wasn't undisputed.
No, but because he was going up and down. Yeah.
And you have to remember this. When he had his resurgence right after the sort of legal dispute with Top Rank, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. He fought at 135, beat Zlatishinin, and 135
iced him epically. Yeah,
he did. But it's Zlatishinin who's done nothing since then. And 135 was a shitty division at the time.
That's hard to believe, right? But it was awful. It was terrible.
Anthony Corolla was a champion. And like everyone thought like he was good. That's how bad the division was at that time. He moved up to 140 and beat Sergey Lipinets in a really fun, competitive fight. I'm not gonna say it was close, but it was a competitive fight.
Right.
And then
I always thought Lipinets was kind of the truth. Like I always thought like Lipinets was good. Like when they said Lipinets was gonna be the last minute replacement for Brown, if I figure out, I'm like, oh well, Figueroa's gonna lose now. Like I've always thought. I mean, he's not Spence or Keith, but he's like the notch below that. Like I've always like Lipinets and Ugas. It's a good fight.
He's a notch below that. I would say he's a B level fighter, Lipinets. But my point is that he beat competition that wasn't that great in a time in those divisions that really weren't that great. When he moved up to 140, it's not like he fought Crawford. When I believe that at time Crawford was at 140, if I'm wrong, right? Like
yeah, it was at one. That was
right at that transition.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. Yeah.
Crawford's either the guy at 140 or he's just moved up to 147. So Mike Garcia was never an established, undisputed champion on top of being like pound for pound at that time. Like Mikey really wasn't pound for pound. Mikey was good. Mikey was arguably could be great. He's had a big layoff. Let's see where he goes. I don't think Mikey has the same or had the same momentum, cachet as a top level fighter at that moment compared to Jermell Charlo right now. And we have on top of it, I would say, a Canelo that people are also saying is fading. You know, like we were on the show after the Canelo John Ryder fight, who also is a worse opponent than Jermell Charlo. You know, like if we
At
really go
least they're
down,
the same size, though. They're the same size. The problem with the fight isn't Jermell Charlo; it's the size. Jermell Charlo, I think, has a great resume. I think Jermell Charlo had the toughest path to undisputed than any of the current guys who've been undisputed over the last year or so. Like, he had to fight some dogs, right? He had to go through Castano twice. Like, he beat Harrison. He beat Rosario, who everyone thought was going to ice him. Like, and Rosario turned out not to be as great as everyone thought he did, but that guy looked like a killer at that time. Like, it's not any disrespect to Charlo. What is that on the wall? It's the side. Like, you have great fights at 168. Why are you bringing up a guy from two weight classes? Like, I consider Big Charlo a 160 anyway. Like, I think the reason why he hasn't fought, part of the reason is because he can't make 160 anymore. Like, that dude is huge, right? Like, I've stood next to him and Bivol. Bivol fights at 175. Jermell Charlo is bigger than Bivol. Jermell's a big dude. So I think part of the reason he hasn't fought is because he can't make 60 anymore. Right? So I always considered Big Charlo a 68 pounder anyway, whenever he came back. So that's a fair fight. This is not a fair fight because of the size. Not that I don't think little Charlo is good. I think he's really good. I think he deserves a big fight, a huge multi-million-dollar fight. Just not with a guy 2 weight classes bigger than him.
Okay. Canelo is 5'8". Jermell Charlo is 6 feet. I don't want to say that Charlo is really going to have a size disadvantage, so to speak. Might have a weight disadvantage, but a size disadvantage is a different thing. He's going to have the reach advantage and the height advantage in this fight.
No, the game plan is the same. The game plan
hold on, Gary. Hold on. Let me rattle this off here. You said I'm gonna spin this. I'm gonna spin this. Okay. I'm gonna list off his last opponents, Canelo's last opponents. Okay, and which ones that this fighter, Jermell Charlo, is better than. John Ryder, Triple G in the third fight, Billy Joe Saunders, Avani Yildirim, Sergey Kovalev at that time, Rocky Fielding, Chavez Jr., Liam Smith, Amir Khan, James Kirkland, Angulo, Trout. Like, if we really go down a lot of these names, Little Charlo's better. I understand there's a size difference. I understand there's a weight class difference. But we have a guy in Canelo who's a very small fighter for his weight class versus a guy that's very big for his weight class in Jermell Charlo, who's undisputed and better than, again, a lot of names I just listed on Canelo's resume, I would say. Now, maybe might nitpick a few here or there, but the fact that I can list off 10 names in the last 5 years or 8 years or so of Canelo's career that Charlo's better than, I don't really see how it's embarrassing to use that term. Again, shocking, not the fight we want. I get that. But embarrassing, I don't see that. This isn't embarrassing. This isn't when Canelo fought Amir Khan, for example. That was embarrassing. That was him.
Why did they make that fight? I guess because it was big bucks. Where did they do that? That was in Vegas, or it wasn't in the Middle East, was it? No, he's supposed to fight Pacquiao in the Middle East, and that fell apart.
It
was Vegas. Why did they make that fight?
Money. They did 400.
Amir Khan is that big of a draw? I guess
it did decent numbers.
It did. It did like 500,000, right?
Yep.
Again, I view this like Mikey versus Spence. It's not like I have any problem. I had Mikey pretty high on my pound for pound, higher than most people did at that time. But there's just no way he can win, right? And there's no way Little Charlo can win this fight. And there are tons of – it's the same situation because there's tons of talent for him to fight, for Canelo to fight at 68.
There isn't. There isn't a ton of talent.
Benavidez and Morrell.
There's 3 names. There's 3 names on that division that make sense. You name 2, and then Big Charlo.
And Big Charlo. But Big Charlo's not fighting right now.
Big Charlo's not fighting right now.
So there's 2 names. Pick one of them. Pick one of them.
And Morrell, a guy that's 5-0, 6-0.
He's got more fights than that now. He's got like 10 fights now. How many fights has Morrell got?
But
Morrell
honestly, like
beats
Morrell's a guy that hasn't beat anyone of in the top 10 yet, has he?
top 10. No, not top 10.
So I feel like that's way more embarrassing of a
He's 9-0
matchup
now.
than
But David Morrell would win
Charlo.
that fight. David Morrell's the best one. I've been said that. Morrell's the best 168 pounder in the world. And
Let him
Jesus
prove
Ramos
it.
is the best 150. You got to prove it. I agree. He's got to prove it. But I would pick him to beat Benavidez. I'd pick him to beat Canelo. I'd pick him to beat Big Charlo. He's so good. Like, he's the Kawhi Leonard of boxing. Like, there's nothing he doesn't do that's really good to excellent. Like, he's just like it's almost like Crawford at 168, right? When Crawford was like 140, it's like this is about perfect. Morrell's about perfect.
And just to add to the spin here, Gary, for example, in MMA, right, the UFC, weight classes are more separated than in boxing,
yeah.
bigger gaps, right? So, for example, there's a 155-pound weight class in MMA. It's the lightweight weight class, and then you have the next weight class up is 170 pounds. It's a 15-pound jump. That's about the same as a 154-pounder going up to 168. So it's not unheard of for a fighter to jump up 15 pounds in weight and win. It's not unheard of. Those are usually great fighters. Is Jermell Charlo a great fighter? We just said he's
That's
pound for
Roberto
pound.
Duran and Shane Mosley great.
But now we find out. Now we find out.
No, I like Charlo too. Is he that? No, he had 2 life and death wars, and he went 1-1 with Brian Castano. Like Castano's good, but that's the level that Charlo's on. Clearly, they fought twice. Everyone thought Castano beat him once, and then he came back and got revenge in another great fight, right? But if he fought Castano 10 times, it's going to be 5-5, right? I mean, no, 6-4.
Yeah.
Okay, 6-4. But I mean, that's a far cry from Shane Mosley or Roberto Duran. Like, I mean.
We never know, Gary. This is the time when fighters can, achieve greatness. Undisputed versus undisputed, Gary.
He's probably getting him
pay-per-view.
at the right time. What would you, if you were a handicap, what percentage chance would you give little Charlo of winning this fight?
Oh, like 10, 15%.
How about big Charlo?
20, 25.
You're undervaluing big Charlo.
Benavidez, 40.
Morrell.
I have no idea, man. Like 15 at this
80.
point. Like, I don't know. Like,
75.
I wanted to fight. If Morrell came out and fought Benavidez and smoked him, then yeah, like I'll go. I'll agree with you, Gary. But he hasn't done that yet.
So you picked Canelo to beat all of them, right? You said right. You didn't give anyone better than 50. Benavidez was close at 40.
No, Benavidez was 40. Yeah.
I agree with you. Benavidez is 40. I would say Morrell is 70. Charlo is 52. And little Charlo is 5.
Gary, you gonna buy this pay-per-view? You gonna support Undisputed versus Undisputed?
Probably.
Never. What? Of course not. I'm gonna buy this. Shout out to you, Uncle Al. Great fight, man. I mean, not really.
I'm gonna buy Spence Crawford. I decided I'm gonna buy that. I'm gonna shell out the $80 and buy it because it's a fight worth buying.
Sure, Gary. I mean, I feel like it really doesn't matter. I feel like it's all money laundering. So, like, they're gonna make their money at the end of the day.
It is money laundering. It probably is money laundering, right?
Like, we've talked about this for so long on like years ago, Gary, on shows about like how are they pumping all this like hundreds of millions of dollars into these events per year, and like it doesn't seem like they're making the money back. Like we look at the the gross revenue or the gate revenue and the box office and all that stuff, and it never seems to make sense. It doesn't make sense, and that's okay.
I remember talking to Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman was telling us that he was approached by a local promoter in Florida, right, like in this area. Promoter, presented him this opportunity, and Keith Thurman was looking at it as like, I'm not a stupid person. I'm a pretty savvy investor. I'm looking like, how do we make money off of this? And the promoter was like, oh, we don't. You just pass down your losses. And Keith's like, all right, I'm kind of looking for a money make. I understand what you're saying, but I'm kind of looking for a money making opportunity, not just some scheme to write all my other expenses off under, which is.
Hashtag boxing.
Hashtag boxing. Yeah.
Anyways. Gary, you want to talk about the last fights that we've have yet to cover? I mean, I don't have them all up on the screen, unfortunately. I know we have Josh Franco and Ioka to talk about. What else? Savannah Marshall had a fight against Franchon Cruz Dezern. And that's about it. Everything else has been just memory hold in my head. I don't remember anything in the last 2 weekends.
What else was that week before? So that would have been like the week of like the 24th. What else was that week?
Melody, what were the fights 2 weeks ago?
How you doing, Melody? You feeling okay?
Gary says hi. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember. I
Which
feel like
match?
there's something.
Oh, the Dalton Smith card. Shout out to you, Rob. Oh, Jared Anderson versus and against the God Charles Martin. Thank you. I have enough to talk about now. I'm good. Okay. Yes. So, Gary, let's talk first about your boy, Josh Franco, who's younger than me. He's in his 20s, like mid 20s. Retiring after losing
27. Yeah.
Yeah, he's younger than me. And retiring, full on saying that he's retiring from the sport of boxing after losing to Kazuto Ioka. Was it mental health issues? What was it?
He told me, you can go back and watch my interviews right before Bam fought Christian Gonzalez, that he was going to retire then, or he didn't know how many fights he had left. And I asked him off camera, I said, is everything okay? He's like, yeah. I've already won a world title. What else do I have to prove? So I was like,
but he hasn't really won a world title. Like, come on. I mean, but not really. I mean, who did he beat? That like Oscar Negrete? Like, come on, man. Like
he beat Maloney.
I think Oscar Negrete is better than both Maloney.
Oh, you're asking who he won for? Oh, I thought you were asking who he won for his world title. Okay. I see.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I understand your point. I'm sorry, but I mean, like, this is not a Hall of Fame career to retire on.
No, it's not a Hall of Fame career.
For a guy that, look, you know me, I've shit on the guy for years now, Gary. He's been one of your favorite fighters for a long time. So as a result, I've made fun of him for years.
He's just one of my favorite people. Like, Josh is such a great dude.
I can't help but feel like he is a guy that has out of the ring issues. From the rumors that I've heard about him, I don't think he has his head completely into the sport.
Not at all.
And that explains why some of his performances have been poor, so to speak. But I wanted to see him face Estrada and Roman Gonzalez. Like, those were fights that I actually wanted to watch.
Well, Estrada ducked him.
Okay, Gary, no, that
happened.
Estrada did not duck Franco.
No, they went to purse bids. Golden Boy won it. Estrada vacated his belt. That's how Franco was elevated from regular champ to world champion. And Estrada fought who?
What was the purse bid total? Do you remember?
I don't. This is
was it like
a while ago.
It might have been an insulting amount.
It was low because Golden Boy was the only one that bid on it.
Oh, so Golden Boy was the only one that bid on it, and it was low. See, I can see why he did that then. Because as a fighter,
I don't know who he fought. Pull it up. It was some guy I never heard of who had like 8 losses. Who he fought? Like,
but maybe he negotiated that fight in Mexico and got some good payday off of it.
Estrada, the legend, Hall of Famer, ducked Josh Franco. That's just facts.
Yeah, but one's a Hall of Famer, one's not.
And who did the ducking?
And there was multiple other fighters in the division who Franco has fought, one of them at least, in Ioka, that are probably going to be in the Hall of Fame. You know, Roman Gonzalez, Ioka, Estrada, Rungvisai probably. You know, those 4 names are going to be in the Hall of Fame. His brother fought one of them. He fought another one, and he lost. I mean, that's the reality. And I think he's a guy that doesn't have his head in the game. He's a guy that I think understands that he's probably maximized like his potential. Like this is it. Like he won't get any better. And that's why he wants to retire, because he's not really in it. He's getting hit a lot. I will say it's a smart move. Like if you're not in it 100%, like I've always said, just get out of the sport. You know, even if it's a break, I think it's better to do that. So good for him on that. But it's unfortunate. It's kind of a sad, little story in boxing, in my opinion. It's a guy that had tons of potential to be in big mega fights as an American little man, and he was not able to get the big fights for whatever reason, Gary. And when he did get a big fight, he lost, and then he retired.
Well, he got a draw, and then
lost.
I don't want to say he lost. He no-showed, really. He went and got his paycheck. I'm like, did you watch the fight? I mean, was that the same guy that fought in the first fight? Clearly not. He came in 6 pounds overweight, the exact amount they told him he could come over and still have the fight. So he was never going to make weight. He had committed himself to giving up the belt on the scale because he knew he was never going to fight again. I'm not making excuses, right? But he was clearly checked out when he did that. It's like when a team is down 3-0 in the playoffs, like, oh, well, we just go home now. Like 1-2-3 Cancun. Like that's, and I love Josh. I'm not trying to, blast him or anything, but like, was that max effort? Was that mama mentality in that game, in that fight? No, he was already checked out. That's what I'm saying. Once you talk about retiring, you're already done.
Anyway,
he got a nice little payday, and he says he's going to open a boxing gym in San Antonio and train fighters. We'll see if that's the case, and we'll see if he fights again. But there's also got to be something. When you're supposed to get all of these fights, right? And your name is mentioned with Roman Tito Gonzalez and Estrada and Quadras and all these guys. And then your brother, a last-minute replacement, who's 2 weight classes smaller than you and like 19 years old, gets the call and then takes all of the gusto and is probably the most popular person in San Antonio right now. Like, I'm not saying Josh is upset with his brother. He's not, right? Like, they're really tight. But that's got to do something to your psyche. Like when Owen Hart beat Bret Hart. Right? Like, Bam says Josh would still kick my ass. We all know that's not true. Right? Like, I get it. Like, he's still your big brother. But, like, come on. No, you don't. And I love Josh, right? And I think Josh is a good fighter. And I think if Josh wanted to, he could come back and win a world title again at 115. But I think there's something to your little kid brother who's 5 years younger than you comes in and takes all your fights, takes all your big money, takes all the fame from you, right? I do think there's something to that. Not that it's Bam's fault that he's that good, right? But I do think that plays on your psyche.
I don't disagree at all, Gary. And as I said earlier, when it comes to Big Charlo, fighters, don't be scared to go see a therapist. Trust me, it's not that hard. Go see a therapist. It's easy. You guys are rich. It costs like $100 at most. Come on.
When was the last time you went to a therapist? $100. 1992? When was the last time you went to a therapist?
For a session?
$100 for an hour, for a half hour?
One half hour. It's not that bad.
Maybe for a half hour, not an hour session. You're getting 100.
And this was, maybe 10 years ago, give or take.
Yeah. I can promise you, especially in LA, you ain't getting an hour session for $100 no more.
Okay, fine. $200, Gary.
That's probably
these are millionaires, or at least for a little man like Josh Franco, they get hundreds of thousands of dollars per fight. Like
he's got the money to go see a therapist if he wants to.
Come on.
Or I've been through therapy, right? And I was forced to go to a therapist as a kid. I can tell you firsthand, when you're forced to go to a therapist, entirely useless. If you want to go and you want to help yourself and you want to understand things about yourself, that's when it's productive. But if you're forced to go, like they always forcing someone to go to therapy, it's like forcing them to go to rehab. It's not going to work unless they want to. Like, did you ever see Good Will Hunting? Like, he just like,
I think
everyone should be a therapist.
I think if everyone was forced to go to therapy, like things would be better in the world.
It's like forcing someone to rehab. It's not going to work unless they want to.
I was just joking.
Oh, you
We're
are. Okay.
moving on. Atlanta Marshall. Yeah, I really don't have any other thoughts about any other fight this last few weekends. They were all good fights. I'll say that. All the people that should have won, they won. Good for them.
Jared Anderson. What y'all think of Jared Anderson?
Oh, and thank you for reminding me about that. I did want to mention one brief thought about that against the god Charles Martin. Jared Anderson looked like shit. For a guy that is touted as the next best American heavyweight, he couldn't finish Charles Martin, who I love dearly. Great human being. Maybe again, God himself. But I mean, how do you not finish him? Like, Charles Martin is one of the more easily finishable top heavyweight / like gatekeepers. So this was one of those fights where I was actually really looking forward to see like where Jared Anderson's at, and it's not the top. Like, I would pick almost every top level heavyweight against him, even guys like Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois.
Oh, stop, Joe Joyce.
Yeah. And my homie from China, Zhang, like, I'm picking him against Jared Anderson.
That's fun because you got the speed of Anderson, and let's do that. They're both top rank. Zhang is with top rank, yeah.
I think so.
Let's do that fight. I mean, the heavyweight division is at a standstill because Fury don't want to fight nobody, and Usyk don't want to fight Wilder. So, I mean, that's the best fight that can be made right now. That realistically can be made right now. Usyk Dubois, okay. But besides that, the best fight that it can realistically be made right now is Zhang and Jared Anderson. Realistically, not hypothetically. Yeah. Like, in a real world scenario, that's the best heavyweight fight that can be made right now. And I think that's a hell of a fight. I picked Jared Anderson to win that fight, but that's a great fight. How does Zhang handle the speed of Jared Anderson?
Easy.
Easy.
Come on. No, I mean, it's a fight. I mean, it's one of those I think would be a fun fight. I just wish that both of them would be moving towards the top instead of at each other right now, because they're already prospects / contenders. You know what I mean? Like, I want them fighting a Dylan White type, or a Joseph Parker. Those are names that I would want them to fight next, not each other, to be quite honest.
I'd rather. I understand your point, right? Fight a former world champ, fight a name. I get that argument. I'd rather see them fight each other because right now, Zhang versus Jared Anderson is a better fight than Zhang versus Joseph Parker. Even if Joseph Parker has the accolades, former world champion, better resume, I get it. A better fight is Zhang and Jared Anderson because the winner of that is a legitimate threat for the heavyweight title, right? Like if Zhang beats Parker, you're like, okay, I kind of thought he beat Parker anyway. If he beats, Yui Fury. All right, I kind of thought he beat Yui Fury anyway.
That's not for Yui Fury there. He's not. He's on that list. No.
That's my boy. I thought he was going to be the goods.
I mean, I do think those are good fights, though. If Jared Anderson fought Dylan White, that's a really fun fight. If Zhang fought Joseph Parker, that's a really fun fight. I just, to me, those are just way more intriguing right now than Zhang versus Jared Anderson. Two guys that I don't know if I should really care about, to be quite honest. I mean, Zhang had a much more of a big breakout win against Joe Joyce, right? Jared Anderson's been the more steady contender / prospect to look at. But I still don't think either one is going to be a heavyweight world champion right now, to be quite honest. I don't see that.
How old is Zhang, right? Because the heavyweight, this Fury Usyk Wilder thing, that's on its last legs. There's going to be a turnover in the heavyweight division, and it's good. Turnover's good. There's good heavyweights coming up, right? But those three guys are all 36 years old. We're about to move on to the next era.
Dude, heavyweights last forever, man. Those guys are going to last till 45.
Well, Fury doesn't take care of himself, so he ain't lasting 45. And
he
Usyk
fights one time every 2 years. He can definitely.
And he weighs 290 pounds and drinks beer all day. I'm telling you, he's not having a long career like Evander Holyfield or Lennox Lewis. Look at those guys. Look at the condition they were in, or Klitschko, and then look at Fury.
If George Foreman can do it, Tyson Fury can do it. Okay, best believe it.
He have no long career.
Usyk seems young. He's in his 34, 35? Is he really
36.
36? But see, he
He's
can last another
undersized.
4
Once
years.
he slows down a little bit, he's getting knocked out because he's too small. So I never expected him to have a long run. I thought it would be a successful run. Was hoping he'd fight.
None of these young guys are gonna knock out Usyk. Jared Anderson, he can't knock
Not
out
right
Charles
now.
Lemon.
But like Usyk gets old one day, 2 years from now, yeah, he gets knocked out. Right, because he's undersized. Not right now.
Usyk Dubois, which is happening next, right on pay-per-view.
Can I just say one thing about Jared Anderson? I just want to comment one thing on Jared Anderson. These homecoming fights are bad ideas. We saw Bam have an underwhelming performance in San Antonio. Then we saw Regis have a disaster of a performance a couple weeks ago in New Orleans, like Eddie Hearn says, like we're in English class. And now Jared Anderson. Like they're too much of a distraction. You're not going to look good in them, right? Like Regis said, you got everyone calling you and your mama for tickets, and everyone wants you to do these appearances, and it's just not. It's a distraction. It is a distraction, and you're not going to have A+ performances, right? This is why you don't play Alabama homecoming weekend, right? You play Vanderbilt, get a win, right? Because it is a distraction. I get why they do them, but this is not. I'm just giving you 3 recent examples of a guy coming home to have a fight. And all 3 of them look like trash. Gave one of the worst performances of their career.
One, homecoming football games is not a good analogy because it's just a home game that's attached to another like event, so to speak, for the school. But they still play half the season at home, right? So it to me that doesn't really make a lot of sense in terms of.
Well, what I'm saying is right because there's so many distractions that weekend. You don't play Alabama that week because you will get squashed.
These are headliners. These are headliners. I'm sorry. What?
I understand, but it's a distraction. It's still a distraction.
The whole point of like combat sports in terms of like promoting fighters, like the foundational idea of it is to promote him in his hometown. Like that is the basic like promoting tactic for every promoter throughout the dawn of fucking time is, hey, this guy's from this town, we're gonna sell him there, and if he sells out there eventually and he's bigger, then we're gonna move him on to a bigger venue, bigger market that's still in his region, and then move to the national markets, whether it's New York or LA or whether it's London in the UK. So like this has just been a test of time that this is how things are done. I don't really see like the idea of like homecoming fights is an issue. Like I just think these guys aren't that good. Like that might be a reality. Like Jared Anderson, maybe not that good. Regis Prograis, maybe a guy that's kind of slipping. A guy that hasn't been doing as much as of late. Steel sharpens steel. Mentality. Who has he fought since Josh Taylor? That really is a quality opponent.
Zepeda.
And that's it. And Zepeda is a deeply flawed fighter. Like Zepeda is the most flawed fighter at 140 at the top, technically speaking. I don't know. And Bam, I mean, I think he had like an injury too that night, so I don't really chalk it too much up to like him just being succumbed by the anxiety of his hometown crowd and all the pressure that's added to it. No, I mean, come on. These are fighters that have most likely been fighting in their hometown for quite some time too. Like on the way up, they're fighting in their local regional scene. So I don't know. I just don't buy it. I think fighters, you're gonna have to fight in your hometown. If your hometown's a big market, guess what?
Well,
that's
if you from New York or LA, you're gonna have to fight in your hometown. But we're talking about like New Orleans and where in Ohio is he from? Toledo. These aren't. Yeah, he may have fought there coming up 4-0, 5-0. Jared Anderson did because Jared Anderson fought all his fights on top ranked cards. But like Regis Prograis may have fought in either Houston or New Orleans real early in his career, 4-0, 5-0. He probably did because he didn't have a big promotional deal. But once he's not a star then. I was with Reed. I was there, and I saw how he was mobbed. He was treated like the Beatles, and like a mob of people everywhere you go. That's a distraction. You're not going to fight your best that way. Like you're just not.
I don't think it should be a factor. It really shouldn't. If you're a top level fighter, elite level fighter, it shouldn't be a distraction. And plus, I mean, guys like Regis have talked about like making New Orleans like a boxing hub and like fighting there all the time. And he's talked about it. Like he's pushed for it. And he
Yeah,
got it. And he's like, hey, I don't like it. Like
and
that's
then
on
after the
you.
fight, they said they asked them, they want Matchroom wants to bring you back here. He said, "Well, me and Matchroom are gonna have to talk about that."
And
Right?
look, the reality is like Regis is a guy that goes out and fights like gators and shit in the swamp. Like maybe he just wasn't focused because he's not a focused guy. Like maybe that's the reality. Maybe he's just kind of like a crazy like Ricky Williams type of dude. Like
That was a bad performance, man. That was bad.
it was horrific. He probably lost the fight, in my opinion. But
He
digress.
probably didn't lose the. I mean, look, I don't care how you scored it because it was like scoring the Robert Easter and who did
Bartholomew.
Easter? Yeah, fight. It's like I don't care. I really don't care how you have this.
Good point. Good point. Briefly, fights this weekend. Your boy Ortiz back from the dead, fighting. Hold on, let me pull it up. Fighting a guy that I don't think anyone cares about. Oh no, sorry, I was mixing up the Boots fight. The Boots fight, I really don't care about. But Ortiz, Stanionis or whatever, however you pronounce his name. That should be a fun fight. I think it depends on Ortiz and his health. Because if he's not 100%, this is going to be a tough outing for him. I mean, Ortiz is a guy that can struggle at times with certain opponents. This could be one of those if he's not 100%, and he might not be. I think most likely is not going to be 100%. Also, Marlon Esparza is in the card against Gabriela Alinas from Argentina.
That's a unification fight. Yeah.
Yeah, the WBA, WBC, and WBO flyweight titles. Esparza fighting her opponent's undefeated to 14-0. Tristan Calcuth, your boy Gary,
Tristan
on the card. Joseph Diaz, he's back.
Yeah, Jojo.
Everyone look up his legal issues when it comes to underage women. But digressing, what else? That's about it for people that I know.
It's a good thing Tristan's last fight back in April wasn't televised because he lost. They all scored it for 3-1. I'm sitting press row. This is in Dallas. This is in Arlington. There's not one person, Jeff Zimmerman for Boxing News, had it even. Every other person had him losing 3-1 or 4-0. Like, to my boy Jonathan Rice. So I know both these people, and I don't have an interest in the fight. And I love Tristan Calcuth and his family. He clearly lost his last fight. It's a good thing it wasn't televised.
He's fighting
his opponent. Different outlook on it right now.
His opponent, Joe Jones, aka Jim Jones, is sporting a 13-8 record, but 13 of those 10 out of those 13 wins, knockouts.
Is it a cruiser or is it a heavyweight?
Oh shit, I don't know, Gary. No, a lot of times it does. It's all over the place. It's 175 all the way to 214 is the highest he weighed. So, come on, come on, Gary. Golden Boy Boxing has finest right here, man. They're not struggling at all.
And there's also a guy, Darius Fulgham, on the card, light heavyweight. He's a really good prospect. Keep your eye on him.
Fighting a guy named Jeremiah Curtwright, who's 2-1.
I like Golden Boy because they utilize Texas, but like some of that matchmaking, man.
Well, they just got rid of their matchmaker. What's his name?
Diaz,
right?
Yeah. It hasn't gotten better.
Well, I mean, they've lost this talent. They've bled talent over the years. That's the issue. Like, they don't have anyone of note. And even guys they used to have, like Rashidi Ellis, they don't have anymore. So
because they didn't like Rashidi Ellis because he was black.
Yeah. Yes,
it is what it is, man. Like, it was the most obvious. Like, he was so good, and they just have him on the show for a year at a clip. It's like, why are you not fighting, Rashidi Ellis at all?
And they just never answered questions about it. Like, anytime they were ever asked about it, they just always ignored it. Like, Come on, Oscar. Come on, bro. Rough. It's
But if they
rough.
didn't want to use him, why did they sign him? Like he could have signed somewhere else. Like,
I think he was signed under the Richard Schaefer era, though, wasn't he?
yeah, but like his brother was signed with PBC.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, just let him go, and eventually let him go. But you're not going to use him. I mean, let him go over to PBC and fight the other welterweights.
No, Gary, that can't happen. Okay, they're going to stick him on the shelf for a year and a half, and when asked about him, they're just going to pretend like he doesn't exist.
This one of the best fighters on your stable at that point. Have him fight Virgil Ortiz. No, he might win. Right? Like,
Also this weekend, Boots Enos versus Roman Villa. I don't care about that fight at all. Boots, I just want to fight like Keith Thurman at this point, or Ugas, who I think are
they're
fighting.
fighting each other.
They're fighting each other, which I get, but I mean, those are two guys that are out of the loop right now. Why not fight them?
Why not fight my boy Barrios? I'm not trying to give my boy Barrios, but it's a name.
I know it's better.
Yeah.
I'll take Mario Barrios over Villa. Absolutely. There's just no name value to it, or not as much name value as a Thurman, even an Ugas.
With Thurman and Ugas off the table fighting each other, like go down. Barrios is Butiev, right? Like go get a name that people know.
Why don't fighters just take risk and go up to like 154 and face like a Danny Garcia? You know, like
would they do that? Do it in Philly.
I mean, is Danny even still fighting? I mean, he's been MIA forever.
I don't know.
Because he went up to 154 and then just didn't fight again. It felt like. Hold on, let me look it up. Maybe we just
has he fought at all since? Has he fought at all since Spence?
I don't know. I don't think so. Hold on. Oh, he fought Jose Benavidez Jr.
That's right.
Last year in July, so it's been about a year now since he's fought. And he had that 2-year layoff after the Spence fight.
But that's the PBC schedule now. I mean, all their welterweights do that. Spence, Thurman.
I mean, I do want to get out here soon, but we can spend the last little bit of the show on that, Garrick. I know I feel like that's a hot topic, is like why PBC's top fighters aren't fighting as often. I mean, I have a few theories, Gary. Do you have any theories as to why that is?
No, because you want to say they're broke. I don't subscribe to that. Like, I really don't. I don't think they have as many TV deals as they used to. So now they got to jam everyone into the few TV deals that they used to have. They lost the Fox, and then no one else picked it up. But no, I don't really have any. I don't think. Are you going to say they're broke?
I'm not going to say broke, but I do think it's a money-saving thing. Absolutely. There's no way that they did not take a massive monetary hit in the last 3 years, like every other sporting entity, really. There's a few industries that have made out, really, and made a lot of money, obviously, during the pandemic. But when we talk about these sporting events, these sporting entities, right, these boxing promoters, putting on events during the COVID quarantines where they're not making any ticket sales. And on top of it, I would assume ticket sales have been lagging post-COVID. To look at, like, let's say, like the movie industry, right? The movie industry has significantly still been lagging in terms of box office ticket sales. That's a big potential reason why we've seen like movies like The Flash or Indiana Jones completely bomb at the box office. Movies that are $200-300 million movies in terms of just pure budget, not including marketing, they're bombing heavily. I assume that sports, in a way, has been hit as well on a similar level. We've seen it. I mean, we had in our eyes a good solid year of these promoters putting on events where there was no crowd. So that's half of your revenue gone, just absolutely gone. So you're only surviving on the TV network money. That's an umbrella. That's a golden parachute, so to speak, that's lifting you afloat. I think it is a way to save money. Absolutely. I'm not going to say they're broke. I think that's absurd to say. I mean, they're making big fights right now. We just got Tank
That was
Ryan.
yeah.
We're now getting Spence Crawford. Like, and we're hearing about Wilder in Saudi Arabia on this mega card, right? Like, we're hearing about big things with PBC this year. So I don't think it's safe to say that they're broke. I think it's safe to say that they've had to adjust to the new economic landscape right now. You also have it where all these top guys are getting top billing, top like purses.
And
They're
this was go ahead.
the
No, go
the
ahead.
the the monetary bubble, so to speak, that we've talked about with the zone back in the day, right? That did have a slight burst, but it still has, hung around. If you look at purses for these top fighters, they're still making mega paychecks that they weren't really making, 3 years before 2018, right? When we saw this huge bubble and influx of money from DAZN, Fox, Showtime, ESPN, then we had Triller and all this stuff. We had this huge influx of cash. That's still hanging around a bit. And as a result, the fighters are probably demanding a lot of money. So that's what we're having now. That's my theory.
I want to say this though, right? Like you still get the big purses, but if you watch, Matchroom had very few cards last year in the USA, very few compared to what they've had in other years, and a lot of their cards they had BAM and women headlining it, and we both know that women and little guys don't get paid the same money as welterweights and above or lightweights and above. They don't. So they were saving money there. There was, like Matt said, going into COVID, this bubble was about to burst, right? Like there's just not that much money. And once Blevnik realized how much money he was losing, he was going to reel that back in. And once that gets reeled back in, Top Rank and Golden Boy and PBC can all kind of reel it back in too, or they're going to go bust because that kind of money just unfortunately isn't in boxing, right? So that was going to bust anyway. Then you compound that and also kind of disguise it with the pandemic, right? Like, oh, we have to pay you less. You had to pay them less anyway. This actually helped that, right? And then you have no crowd, and there is an effect there. And boxing, I feel, is just starting to get back to where it was pre-pandemic. Now, where like basketball and baseball are fine. Football obviously never went anywhere. There was economic hardship. We self-inflicted, sure, right? But when DAZN and came on the scene, they were paying people obscene money, right? Like money we've never seen before. I remember, Eddie Hearn saying, "I'm going to offer Tank Davis $5 million to my 10 farmers." That's a $1.5–2 million pot. You're going to give one guy $5 million, right? If I would have said to you, Tank and Tevin, circa 2017, what's the pot for that fight? It's no more than $2 million. It probably isn't $2 million. He said, "I'm going to offer one guy $5 million." It's like that's the kind of money they were throwing at. That can't last. That's the housing market boom. That's fake. That's not real. And now you're feeling the effects of that. And I think with PBC, it's been a little prolonged, right? Like Matchroom is finally starting to put more shows on. Top Rank is starting to put more shows on. PBC really hasn't caught up. Also because, like I said, they don't have the Fox deal anymore. That's expired.
Yeah, it'd be like if if Top Rank lost half of their TV networkship deals and dates, we would be probably talking about, oh, this fighter's not fighting as often. This fighter's not fighting as often. Absolutely. But anyways, that's my thought on it. I've seen a lot of people, talk about it, so to speak, on boxing Twitter about, PBC's broke, as you say. And I just don't think that's accurate. I think it's just that the market has significantly changed in the last 3 years. The way companies are looking at workers, and these fighters are workers, they're employees in a sense, even though they're not listed as that or classified as that, they are in a sense employees. Like Gary said, the idea of like trying to bring down purses, wages, that was a huge thing. And they did that in a sense in the last 3 years. But they also lost massive chunks of revenue because at least a year of that, they lost ticket sales. So, yes, they were saving money in a sense by not paying fighters as much and keeping fighters a little bit fighting infrequently. But then they weren't making the money back by having still regular events that had regular regular revenue coming in. So we just seen a shift. Anyways, Gary, any other thoughts before we head out of here?
Usyk Dubois, real quick. You taking Usyk?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I like Dubois, but I mean, he's not at that level.
We both had him back like 2018, 2019 as the next great thing.
You were wrong. You were
We
so
were
wrong.
We'll see. He's still really young. What's he, like 25? He's still really young.
I don't see, dude. He got so messed up by Joe Joyce.
Yeah, Joe Joyce messed up his whole life.
Yeah, definitely ruined his career for sure. He should just retire like Josh Franco.
Well, he hasn't won a world title yet.
I mean, to be fair, he's probably won a version of a world title at some point. Like just like
I mean, he's won like probably an intercontinental silver belt or something like that. Like he's won
an intercontinental belt, Gary. That's almost world. If it's not, I don't really understand the difference.
Yeah, what is the difference between like the WBO? They don't call it intercontinental; they call it global. What is the difference between world and global? I don't understand the difference. Which one's better?
Is intercontinental just two continents? Like is
it
like
could be? See, it could be.
I feel like we need this listed out before every broadcast of every boxing show of like a classification of all these belts and the terminology for all these belts. I think that's what ESPN and DAZN should do. I want Sergio Mora and the other dumbass to be out there talking about this. That'd be fun. That'd be good entertainment. Gary, final thoughts. Let's do it.
No, that's it. Canelo is embarrassing himself and the sport of boxing. The haters are going to have a field day. Find me all from social media, 3D Boxing blog. And also subscribe to my channel, Texas Boxing Scene on YouTube. I'll be out in San Antonio with Virgil. I'll have a lot more content for that channel. It is July 5th, 2023. So if you're in the U.S., it was your Independence Day yesterday. In Texas, it's March 2nd. Let's make Texas a country again. From Texas to the world, thank you, and God bless.
Remember, everyone, obviously our third co-host, Melody Joy, is not here. We might come back and do a show this week as well and do 2 shows this week. So check that out, thebeautyofboxing.com, at thebeautyofboxing, all social media platforms for Melody Joy, our third co-host. Find me, Matt Hunter, on all social media platforms at Matt Hunter MCR. I just posted or published an article on peoplesworld.org about the Unite Here Local 11 strike that is ongoing right now. It just started July 1st. 15,000 workers on strike in Los Angeles and Orange County, shutting down all of the hotels and a lot of other tourism and hospitality aspects like airports and stuff like that. Disneyland.
When did this happen today? Because the airports are a disaster today. My wife was flying. She had to fly through, she had to make this ridiculous. Is that this happened like now, like recently?
Yes.
The airports. I can confirm the airports are a disaster right now.
Yes. So that is happening. I also posted a video on that on Trending Now Network. Also was at a Cuba solidarity rally to get it off the state-sponsored terrorist list that Donald Trump put it on, and obviously Biden has not taken it off as of yet, which unleashed another wave of sanctions on Cuba. So we had 20 organizations organized in Los Angeles. Did another video on that, again, Trending Now Network, also on at CPUSA _SELA for all social media platforms as well, to go check out that content. Hit the like button, share the show, all that fun stuff. Patreon.com/Trending Now Network to catch the show live. And obviously you're catching it right now on YouTube. If you're watching tomorrow or whenever I post this, go to all of our stuff. Again, Texas Boxing Scene, that way, Texas Boxing Scene for Gary, beautyboxing.com, and Mixed Combat Radio and Trending Now Network. Okay, peace.